Hey, hey. So it is Saturday, May 14th. Survived Friday the 13th. And I have not been filming enough. Like, I've come back from my hiatus and then I've just been sort of slumpy as far as videoing. I've not been slumpy as far as reading. And so I thought that I would film a Saturday bookish chat, right? Just to kind of talk about what's been going on. I did not film a May TBR, but I did write one down, so I guess I can talk about it at the end of the month or something. I don't know, but if anyone's interested. So I read several books at a time, and so I thought maybe I would talk about like how that's going or what I'm reading or whatever. We're about mid-month, so I've read some books already. Some of the things that I finished already are like those little in-between books. Like I fit in graphic novels, audiobooks, things like that, because like I have a commute. I've talked about this before, but I have a commute where I'm driving 30 minutes to work and then about 30 minutes home from work. And so, and I listen to most of my audiobooks at like 2 times speed. So that's roughly like 2 hours of an audiobook. And so I can get through, it's like easy math. I can get through like a 10-hour audiobook in a week. So like, that's cool. Now that will slack off a lot whenever I, am out for summer break. But I'm doing some like an extra gig in June, so I'll still have some commute reading into June. So it'll be like July that I kind of slack off on that. Anyway, that's the future. So some things that I'm reading. Okay, so I've been reading The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson since January. Okay, but that sounds like I don't like it, and it sounds like I don't, like I'm not feeling it. This is the second book of this series trilogy. And as you can see, I'm about halfway done with it. So the thing about it is it's high fantasy, right? And it kind of works, like things happen, but it does sort of work slowly. And Brandon Sanderson is like a master of like creating these really vivid characters that you become connected to enough that you're like really invested in. And so I'm enjoying it. But the problem is that to read, for me, maybe not other people, but for me to read high fantasy, I need to like have enough time that I can read for a little while, right? Like if I only read like 10 pages, like that's not very far. Like I'm probably still within a scene. So yeah, and it's kind of become a comfort read because I've been, like I talked about I'll talk about this in a vlog, which you guys haven't seen yet because this is going up before the vlog, but I'm also reading Manhunt. So there's times when I've read a little bit of Manhunt and then I'm so like squeaked out and like bothered that I want the comfort read. So high fantasy for me is a comfort read. So the fact that I've been reading this so long is not about the book. It's more about me prioritizing it, I guess, or like how things are going in my life, because sometimes I come home from work, because most of my reading I do in the evenings when I come home from work, and sometimes we watch Netflix, so I don't get a lot of reading done, or sometimes I'm not going to be able to, I know I'm not going to be able to read enough of this to like get through a scene, so I just don't pick it up. But the other thing is, you can see, it's a chonky little boy, and it's like 770 something pages. So it's like, oh, you're not getting through it. Well, but I've read, almost 400 of those pages. So yeah, like I've basically read a book within this book. So, yeah, like that's another reason it's taking me so long. Okay, cool. So, another thing that I've been reading, or actually I just started it kind of recently. I did one of those things where I like read a few pages and then I just kind of put it down. So like I had to restart it, and I don't have the jacket on it, is My Fine Fellow by Jenica Cohen. This is a retelling of My Fair Lady, and I like it. It's dealing, instead of with like elocution and language, it's dealing more with like food and cooking and being a culinarian, right? Where you're not just cooking or advising someone on what to cook. You're like thinking very critically about flavors and how they go together. And so like that's really interesting on that. It's also like gender bent in the sense that like the Eliza is a dude, so like that's kind of an interesting thing, and it's written in like a historical, because I think it's set in the 1830s, so that's also pretty cool. It's YA, so when I read it, like I haven't gotten very far, but when I read it, it goes pretty quickly. Because, you know, the YA stuff just kind of goes really quickly for me. Now, as far as, like, Book of the Month books, like, on my TBR, which I haven't shared, so, like, you don't even know what's on it, I was going to focus on the Heart Principle, because it's May, and May, we acknowledge AAPI heritage, right? Asian American Pacific Islander heritage, so like, that also fit within that, and then also for me... also for me, it's romance, and romance is comforting because there is a pattern. There are tropes that, even though like you see them over and over again, it's still like vibrant and whatever, because it's about the romance, the characters, right? Like there's the details in there that keep you going. So anyway, I have not actually started that yet, but I will probably when I finish like My Fine Fellow or Manhunt, I'll pick up the Heart Principle. But as far as other Book of the Month books that I have on my radar this week, I started technically, but I haven't put it on my Goodreads. Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. As soon as I saw this on, like, as an option, like, for Book of the Month to add to the box, I saw, like, the synopsis, and I was like, yeah, like, I want to read that. And I haven't gotten very far in it, but it's meeting my expectations. So that is one. Another one that I have actually started like yesterday. Yeah, I think I started it yesterday. Is Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. I'm doubling up on this in the sense of like I'm using the audiobook. So I'm making progress when I make my commute. And then also I can use the audiobook and read along with the physical book. I like doing that. Like that's something that, you know, like I'm a teacher. So you see like people like using that in the education field for like teaching students or whatever. It's also good for adults. So if this is something you do, like that's another way of like sort of accessing, and it can also like help like accessing the reading portions of your brain, but it's doing like double duty because you're using your like auditory reading and your like visual reading. And so it can actually like really help with that. So just heads up on that. So, yeah, I'm doing that with that way. And I got like 20% through because, you know, I listened to it at 2 times speed, and the narration in the audiobook is amazing. I'm impressed. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, so sometimes I'll listen to one and I'll be like, okay, okay, sweetie, bless your heart. Okay, and then as far as finally, you know, kind of talking about like what I'm reading or whatever, like this is the cover on my Kindle. Well, actually, it's not a Kindle. It's an iPad, woo! But I use it primarily, like pretty much just for the Kindle app, because I have had too many bad experiences with the actual like Kindles. Like my very first Kindle was great, and then I've gone through some other Kindles and some Kindle Fires, and they just haven't worked out great for me. So after the last one crapped out on me, I went ahead and got an iPad mini, and I use my Kindle app with it. And I really like it because it's backlit, because a lot of times when I'm reading my Kindle, my husband's asleep next to me, so I can read it, and not bother him, have the lights off, and I can read in the dark, basically. So I'm reading, like, you see several of them here, but I'm focused on 2 of them at the moment. Sometimes I'll read more than one in my Kindle. So, this first one here, I don't know if you can see it. It's just like a Kindle Unlimited book by KJ Jackson, and it's the second in a trilogy. I think it's a trilogy, and it's like romance, but there's also like sort of this mystery element. There's like this, I don't know if it's like magical per se, but there's this like artifact, this box thing that causes people to react to it a certain way, and it's making its way from person to person. And so this book is just the people who are dealing with it at that point, and it's the dynamics of the relationships are really good. The first of this set, the characterization wasn't great, but I went ahead and gave the author like another chance as far as reading this next book, and I'm liking it a whole lot better. Like the male and female main characters, of this one are more fleshed out, more I don't know, interesting. Like they seem more, they're real. They seem real. Okay, anyway. And then the other that I'm focused on is that second one there, and it's The Broken Circle. It's one that I bought on like a Kindle sale like a while back. Like it had to have been like a couple of years ago, I guess. It's written by Angela Amati Mills. Like the little percentages hanging over it. It is a memoir. It's a memoir about a woman's escape from Afghanistan in like in the early 80s, when the Russian influence and all that was like really changing up how Afghanistan was as a country. And I'm learning a lot from it. Right now where I'm at, she's still kind of a small child. So a lot of what she is describing and talking about, it's like she doesn't really understand all the things. And she's like, and then one day tanks showed up, right? But I'm more and more engaged in it. And so like I'm learning a lot from it, because I feel like that country and then that period of their history is something that I don't really know a lot about. So I really appreciate like the topic on that. And I'm reading that partly because, you know, it's AAPI, and so we're looking at, you know, anything that happens in the continent of Asia. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been reading or working on, like what I'm reading right now. Like I finished an audiobook like day before yesterday, and I've read a couple of graphic things this week. But I'm kind of like having a rough time. I'm hoping that like Black Cake and Razorblade Tears especially will help me out, because I've been giving books like 2 and 3 stars. Like I haven't had a good 4-star, 5-star read lately. Really this month, I think, in the month of May. And so I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like you want to read, it's okay to read something and it not hit, and you're just like, this is meh, 3 stars. But then every now and then you want to read something where you're like, oh, I love this. This is great. Which I guess to kind of help me with that, I could like keep going with the Well of Ascension, because Brandon Sanderson is like a known quantity. So I like, yeah, like that's probably going to be more stars. But it's so big. That's what she said. It's so big. Okay, so on that note, I'm gonna cut this video, but yeah, that's my Bookish chat for this Saturday. Maybe I'll make this like a Saturday thing, because Saturdays are days when, I don't have as much going on, and so it's easier for me to film. I have some unboxings coming up because I've got my unplugged book boxes. So yeah, there's that. But thanks for watching. If you've read any of these books, or you have some suggestions based on what I've said about these books, leave them down in the comments. I love to talk about books, duh, like here I am. Yeah, so, and if you like my content or you want to subscribe, that's great. You can hit the like button and you can subscribe and we'll interact. I also have like my social media links and stuff down below. So cool. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.